All right, the next technique is vertical layers. Vertical layers is an exterior technique, which means we're going to take away weight, movement, to create volume. So everything's going to be pulled this way. I've already done low graduation. So now we're going to take a vertical subsection, and we're going to pull the hair straight out vertically. You don't have to take all the hair at one time. Pull the hair straight out. Now I'm going to use my perimeter line as my guide. So that last piece is going to be my guide. So I'm going to cut straight up. Climb the wall. Take a little piece of that previous cut, so it's my guide. Pull straight. This is a traveling guide. Take another subsection. Now I'm going to bring my guide back to my subsection. I need to make sure that I bring it back. I don't need to bring all of that. I like to start on this, the beginning part, I'll start from the bottom. When we get to the transition area, we're going to cut it a little differently. So, right here to the apex of my ear, bring my guide back. Guide there, guide's right there. Straight up. Fingers are perpendicular to the floor now. A little bit of geometry going on. Take my subsection, bring my guide. Work in 2-inch increments if you have to. You'll figure out what works best for you. But work in a system, work clean. There's my guide, there's my guide. Straight out. So now my interior is over directed to my exterior because it's an exterior technique. Now once I start getting to the transition of the head, I'm going to cut from zone 2 down to zone 1. Zone 1 will not reach because look at the length difference. So on this one, as I come around the head, I will cut from zone 2 down to zone 1. Bring more guide back than your subsection. So smaller subsection, bigger guide. Over direct it, so I'm bringing my guide to my subsection, combing the hair straight, looking for my guide, going from zone 2 to zone 1 until I run out of hair. That hair does not reach, do not cut it. The reason why we cut from zone 2 to zone 1 is so we save length. The reason why we start from the front on this one is because they want a long perimeter. So we use our perimeter guide so we don't cut length. So again, bringing more guide with me than subsection, making sure I comb it back to my subsection. Sorry. There we go. Perpendicular to the floor, look for my guide. Keep your work clean. Make sure that you're bringing your guide back to your subsection. Don't over-direct your subsection. Otherwise, it'll get longer. So I'm always splitting my previous cut, and then I'm just taking another subsection. Bringing my guide back to my subsection. That's why it's called traveling guide. My guide travels to my subsection. That's the hardest thing to remember. Going from zone 2 to zone 1, you can see a lot of zone 1 is not going to reach, and that is okay. Once I get to half, I like to check the work real quick just to make sure that my lines are okay before I jump to the other side. Since we cut it vertically, we're going to check it horizontally, check our lines to make sure they're square to the line, to the floor. Sorry about that. just walking it around, checking my work. I like to check it halfway, because if I'm good here, it should be easier to start my other side. Okay, so that side is done. You can look at the exterior, how there's more layers. I'm going to go to the other side and start the same way. A lot of times people will stand here or stand here, whatever works best for you. I'm going to stand so you can see. If my perimeter line is the same, my guide will be the same and it'll be even. I don't need to take all that right away. Pull it right there. There's my guide. Same outline perimeter that I used on the other side. Same thing. Split the guide. I'm going to stand like this so maybe you can see better. My guide's there. It's that last piece on my perimeter, plus the previous cut. Follow your guide. Use your small tooth of your comb. I would never cut like this because of my body position. I'm doing it so you can see the guide. Again, split my guide. Bring my guide back to my subsection. Now we're at that transition area where there's nothing there. We go from zone 2 to zone 1 because we've already cut our guide, so we can follow that no matter where it's at. Right there's my guide. If I can't see the guide, take a smaller subsection and a bigger guide and bring it back. This is not the way you cut this. If I had to do 8 of these, my back would be hurt. I'd be walking like this at 30. I will show you how to stand once again so you can see. Brought some of my guide with me. I would stand like this and look for my guide. Okay? I'm doing it here so you can see the guide better. Make sure, again, the reference point that you want to make sure is you bring your guide back to your subsection. If I overdirect it, I bring my subsection towards my guide, it's going to get longer because I overdirected it. Overdirection creates length. The opposite way. Almost done, couple more subsections. Bring my guide back, turn a little bit. Remember, perpendicular to the floor, vertical, straight up, straight down. Should be right to my center. We'll see how close I am. See if I guessed right. Kidding. Right in the middle. Boom. Check my middle piece right there, just to make sure everything's blended. Again, we cut it vertical, so we're going to check it horizontal. Pull it straight out, look for your line to be straight. So I'm looking for straight lines all the way around that head. And then it blends in with my middle piece, which it did. Okay? Once again, I want you to look at the layers and the movement. Because it's an exterior technique, that's where you see the movement is in the exterior.